Ellen had asked me to convene this special meeting. I think the deadline was next week.
It's Friday.
And it would have been too late for a regularly scheduled meeting. So there's a grant that the Land Trust wishes to pursue. So I want to open the hearing on an application for the 2016 Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management Small Recreation Development Grant for a project proposed for a property located on Mechanic Street identified as Assessors Plat 27, Lot 182B, and entertain public comment on the project identified as Brushy Brook Accessible Recreation Trail as requested by the Hopkinton Land Trust. So I guess anybody from the Land Trust want to chime in on this project, and then we'll
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to thank you on short notice. Scheduling.
Can you go to the podium, please, Meryl?
I would like to thank the town council for scheduling a special hearing for us on short notice. And you have some materials in front of you, and at this point I'm going to turn it over to the guy in charge, Ed Wood. And Harvey, I think you're in charge of this one.
It's your baby.
Yeah, it is.
Mr. Wood?
Again, I'd like to thank you for short notice and apologize for, but somehow we didn't find out about this particular grant opportunity until 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe. I became aware of it, so we quickly tried to figure out how we could do something at the Mechanic Street site. Now, I don't know whether you want me to run through the project or...
Yeah, give an overview, because if you could, please.
It's, I mean, I think there's an interesting history to the project, and as you know, several years ago, the fire district, I think, did a tremendous thing for the town of Hopkinton, and particularly for the village of Hope Valley, by acquiring the old hardware store site, which had become sort of an eyesore in the center of the Hope Valley village, and expanding their facilities, but also creating what's known as Depot Square Park. Unfortunately, everybody thought, you know, the park should be connected to the Brushy Brook and to Wood River from the beginning. Unfortunately, the land that they were able to acquire did not run all the way to the brook. It was a piece owned by the adjoining landowner, and he did not cooperate very well in trying to, originally was thought maybe we could get a right-of-way to the brook, and it seemed very difficult to do. So they went ahead and did the park without the access to the brook. Then several years later, 2008, I think, the Land Trust had an opportunity to buy a piece of land sort of east of there. And again, it did not connect directly to the park, but it was a very nice piece of land that ran along Brushy Brook, and as far as the confluence with the Wood River. And then just last year, I guess, or it was 2014, the landowner wanted to expand a smaller building on Mechanic Street. He needed more parking space, and these people he was selling it to did, and so we were able to arrange. We started to try to arrange, right of way and trade for the land, and then as we got into it, we sort of said to him, well, it'd be just simpler, why don't we just do a land swap instead of trying to figure out what a right of way means. And so then we did a land swap, so now there is this very, nice parcel of land that connects to the park and runs along the Brushy Brook. And we've always thought there should be access to the brook and to Wood River, more access to these things that were so important to the history of Hope Valley. And it's also the site of the old railroad right-of-way, where the track ran to Wood River Junction and ended up at Depot Square. And we've been talking for 2 years about, since we got the land, how to do this. And we thought that it should also, since this is and I think you're aware that the Land Trust has done a lot of trails in town. I think town's becoming quite well known for its trail system now, and it's just going to keep getting bigger and better. But most of those are in very rural forested areas. Most of them are rustic kinds of trails. We thought that we should try to make this trail something be more accessible to the elderly residents of the town, and to handicapped people, disabled people. So we'd like to make it an accessible trail. And we'd like to, at the end of it, actually put a kind of viewing platform and perhaps a fishing pier that juts out towards Wood River right at the confluence. And so that's the gist of the proposal. We continued to talk since we got this to you on Friday, and we probably would like to rewrite the project description a little more since we've been able to ascertain sort of who the people are that are on the selection committee. We just got those names on Friday afternoon, and we realized it's a very recreation parks oriented group, and so we'd like to, we're going to try to meet with the fire district tomorrow to ask them about the park. What we'd like to sort of present it, not with any changes in what the project would do, but present it more as an extension of the park, so that this would be, extending the Depot Square Park more than doubling its size, maybe tripling its size, and make it more like more of a recreation project than sort of an open space environmental kind of project. But it would just be a few small changes. We hope you would allow us to do that if you approve it. It wouldn't change the application form any, except for perhaps a name. We might change the name to put park in the name. But the project description would probably add 2 or 3 paragraphs. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. But
Yeah, so this access would be what, behind the daycare, kind of? Would that be?
yeah, would be behind the daycare down. And where the daycare is, where they have their parking.
Yeah.
Some of that, it looks like it's their parking, is actually still our land, and we've ascertained there's enough room to put a very decent sized parking lot out there. And one of the reasons we think that the Depot Square has not been, I think people really appreciate the way it looks. It's a beautiful thing, but it's not really that well used. We'd like to have more events there. One of the problems has always been parking, so we think we can do parking up there, and we'll have an access trail that goes. That will not be accessible, but it would be an access trail that goes down to the river, and then people can walk back along the river and get into the park that way, or they could actually walk on Mechanic Street too. And then there's also down behind the daycare center, we have a fairly good sized lot down there that we can improve, beautify, make it into parking. The problem with that is we only have access from the adjoining landowner's site. We have an agreement that came when we swapped the land, and we have a right-of-way to use that access for maintenance and for the town officials and land trust to visit the site, and that also we can give him notice of an event, and we can use it for an event, and he cannot unreasonably withhold his consent. So if we have events, if we get some concerts, and we'd like to try to get probably a couple of concerts this summer, we should be able to use that site. There's the music now that goes. The multimedia presentation.
Who was that? Sylvia, any questions?
No, I think it's great.
I actually have a couple of questions. I think it's great too. I actually think it's a wonderful project too. It's called, I saw that it was called the Brushy Brook Accessible Recreation Trail, and I was just wondering why it was Brushy Brook, but it's because it's the brook even though it attaches itself to the river?
Yeah, most of it runs along the brook, which is, water comes out of, what's the name of the Locustville Pond, goes, along Brushy Brook, and then Wood River comes in down at the end of our lands. Our land goes to the confluence, but most of it is along the Brushy Brook.
I'm afraid most of the time we talk about Brushy Brook is in the planning board.
Oh, yeah, right.
Different.
And I'm sitting there going, there's a difference here, right? We're not where I thought.
Yeah, that name is not so good.
Not a good name, not a popular name, although maybe it'll make it better overall.
No condominiums on this little section.
Little condominiums, wonderful, wonderful, I think it's great. The accessibility is going to be very accessible. I'm very interested in having some trails that have benches for people to sit and walk, to sit, not just walk,
Right.
but then have them wide enough for wheelchairs.
Right.
And so this is going to be a truly accessible little area by the river, because I would assume even where they fish, it can be accessible for someone in a
Yeah, that's
wheelchair
not
or
wrong.
walker or something.
Yeah, we have been advised by our consultant, who's an expert trail builder, who's built trails all over the country, that not at too early a point should you call it handicap accessible. Those are sort of magic words. That if you use those words, you come under a whole different classification of building code that are very difficult to meet. So that's why we're calling it fully accessible. As we get into the planning and engineering, if we can do something that can be called handicapped accessible without, making it cost twice as much as what we'll do.
Like putting in an elevator.
Yeah, it just apparently it brings a lot of requirements that are difficult to meet. So, but we want to make it so that it would be about 3.5 feet wide. It would be in a lot of places we hope stone, kind of stone dust, very small stone, very hard packed, so that wheelchairs could go on. In some places, it will undoubtedly have to be a boardwalk, so we would build a boardwalk, and that would be wide enough for wheelchairs with turnout points and with benches, and we definitely want to put a number of benches along the way. So
I think that would be really wonderful, because I think that's something the town is lacking. So I'm really happy to hear that. Doesn't have to be handicapped if it's fully accessible. However you do that, you make it. And then you're going to have sanitary facilities as well, I saw in this.
we don't have any sanitary facilities, no.
Oh, okay, it said something about that in the report, so I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, if we had events there that we thought we would do, we're on enough people, we'd rent a porta potty. We've done that before.
Okay. Improved user comfort or safety, page 7. Project improves user comfort or safety such as the addition of sanitary facilities, but you haven't filled that out, right?
Yeah, no, that's, we're going for a small recreation grant, and this application's for either large or small. But if it's small, you only have to fill out the first couple of pages, so that's all stuff that doesn't apply.
And so then the other question I had, which may also not apply, is the town maintenance. I'm assuming it'll be land trust maintenance, not town maintenance, but.
Well, at this point, yeah, it would be, I think we should talk about that going forward. Particularly, it's a bit of a tricky thing since the Depot Square Park belongs to the fire district, not to the town. But I think, we met with the fire district when we first thought of this, and they happened to have a meeting. We told them about it. They passed a resolution supporting it, even though it had nothing written at that point. It didn't have a map or anything. So they do support it, and we're going to try and talk to them again this week.
Right, but I mean, the maintenance will be the same way that you would maintain the land trust
Right.
trails. It would be via the land trust, friends of the land trust. It's not
Right.
something that will come back necessarily on our public works unless there's an emergency.
Right. And that's the way it would have to start, I guess. But, we may want to talk in the longer term about making it part of the recreational facilities. If you want centralized sort of maintenance of recreational facilities, and the land trust is probably going to get into a couple of other recreation type things on our land. So, and we actually met with the Recreation Commission a week or so ago, right? Or is it still coming up?
They attended the meeting, but not very many people showed up, and the recreation department was like, great, we're really busy, let's do it in
And
July.
okay, so we're going to have a meeting with them, and just for general,
Because I know at the
coordination.
moment, the moment, we don't do a lot of our public works doesn't do a lot of maintenance for the trails, and I would assume that you're going to start in that manner too, unless there's an emergency, like a huge tree falls down over something and you need some help on that level. Okay, that's also useful too, because we haven't planned on that being part of our works. Okay, those are my questions.
So you,
I think it's nice because every now and then I hear the Hopeless Valley term, and it's usually from someone farther away than they haven't been to Hope Valley lately. But I'm glad you put that in there because it goes to show what the history was. And when I was a kid, it was Hopeless Valley. Not anymore, it got yellowified.
I invited our planner to be here because we do have a competing DEM grant, a large one, 400,000 for Langwood Field. So I wanted to bring Jim just to kind of chat for a few minutes on our grant and what this might mean in terms of our grant in the works, because I know we have to submit ours as well. We met as a council for that particular DEM grant, and we're all in support of that. But we're going to probably have to rank these grants.
They require you to rank the large development grants, but not the small ones, from what I can hear. So if we were putting in for a large one, then you'd have to rank it.
Okay.
My understanding. Is that your understanding too?
I'd rather not say that. I'd rather err on the side of caution and rank them. If you have more than one, rank them. That eliminates the ambiguity right off the bat.
Okay. So, all right. You want to chat about what we have in the hopper and how this grant may affect things or not affect things, I guess?
Well, at the outset, I'd like to say that the project proposed by the Land Trust is an excellent one. I've been aware of it for quite some time because I've been involved in the administrative subdivisions and land acquisitions which have taken place. And I know that a river walk has been planned for a long time. It certainly would, I could support that from a number of perspectives as a planner. Okay, economic development, the revitalization of the village of Hope Valley. It's going to dovetail very well with a Langworthy Field upgrade as well. So I would support this project any day of the week. However, having said that, I wish we weren't talking about it tonight at all from a timing standpoint. As you know, as you said, we are putting in a $400,000 grant for Langworthy Field. And that's a project that I've been accumulating money for since 2013. We have DEM money already. We got a small grant last time, 2 years ago, $24,000. And we've also gotten quite a bit of CDBG money as well. So we've got about $250,000 right now. As you know, it's a little bit more than an $850,000 project. If we get the 4, we could probably come very close or maybe even complete all 3 phases next summer. Get it all done in one shot. I would say now, what we have right now, I guess, is it looks like we're going to have 2 applications from the town of Hopkinton. We're going to have a large one, which is the one for Langworthy Field. And as Mr. Wood just pointed out, there is much more of an application to be filled out for that project. The small grant, which they're applying for $100,000, there's only the first 15 questions, and most of the questions are basically contact information, name. There's only 2 questions of any substance on the second page. You describe the project, and then you explain what new facilities would be developed. And then you have a budget. You have a budget as well, proposed funding and the project, the estimated cost. And then you have to, again, another requirement of that is to have a public meeting on the project tonight and get council approval to submit the grant. So they have to do the same things as we did last Monday night for this. But the large application goes much further. You have to be consistent with the comp plan. You have to cite how it's consistent with the comp plan. And on the 4th page of the application, for the large grants, it does ask for applicant priority. It says here the applicant's highest priority application will receive 5 points. So what I would ask of the council tonight is to please make, if you're going to accept this at all, and I really don't want to have to compete with it. I don't think we should really be competing against ourselves on these applications because of a couple of reasons, which I'll tell you in a second. But if Langworthy Field is at priority number 1, I get 5 points right off the bat. I don't see in the application where the land trust project would be penalized or either way or the other for not answering it. But as I just said a moment ago, that if a town has more than one application, I have an application right here asking for what priority it is. So I would, I think we should specify it. Don't leave it up to the state to interpret their applications. So again, 2 years ago, the state awarded $4.8 million. And they gave out 16 large grants and 16 small grants. This year, I guess there's $4 million available according to the announcement for this. Now, if they find some more along the way to add to it, sometimes it's bond money that they can get from previous years. It could be more than that, but let's say it's $4 million. That means it's $800,000 less than what they gave 2 years ago. Competition is keen. As you know, everybody's looking for money these days. Westerly put in for $400,000 for their Orgery Field. We know what Charahoe is proposing, and they did that through the town of Richmond. Town of Richmond also has a trail grant in. City of Providence has 3 applications in for a total of $580,000. They get a $400,000, a $100,000, and an $80,000. Now that's the City of Providence, a little bit bigger than us. So if with my 400 request and another 100, that's 5. We're asking almost for as much as City of Providence is asking for. So I mean, we're not going to get this kind of money. So I really, even though I love that project and I'd like to see it, I'd like to help them actually bring it to fruition at some point. I'd really prefer not to see it here at all. But if that's the will of the council, I would humbly suggest to make theirs priority number 2. And let me say why. Again, it's not just the points, but this RRC committee, the Recreation Resource Review Committee, they have a set of rules that they go by, which I read this afternoon. They have a lot of latitude, when they get these applications in, they have a lot of latitude to do a number of things. First of all, they can make categories of applications, and then as they receive them, put them in various categories. They can also, if they get an abundance of applications, they could also turn around and limit the number of applications that come from any one town. It's right in their regulations right here. They could establish a maximum number of submissions per municipality. That's why it's important to me to get language number 1. I don't want to be the guy that's eliminated in the event that they say, okay, 1 from each, we're only going to consider 1 from each town. So.
Jen, the Charahoe submission, you mentioned that it went through Richmond. Does that mean that we don't prioritize them here?
I would say no.
Leave them on? Okay.
I would say no. Even though, now what complicates it a little bit, potentially, is that we did write a letter of support for both of those applications, okay? So we are on record of support, which is fine. But it actually, technically, that application was submitted by the town of Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
They were supposed, it's their job as the host community to prioritize them. So that means they have 3 applications, 1 of their own and 2 from Charahoe. Let them worry about prioritizing them. That's their job.
I move that we approve the submission of 2016 RIDEM Small Recreation Development Grant in the amount of $100,000 for the Bushy Brook Accessible Recreation Trail, and that we prioritize them as number 2 behind Langworthy Park, which is first.
Second.
Could I be heard?
Motion made,
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, I would just, I mean, there's no requirement on an application for a small development grant to prioritize that grant. So, I mean, I fully agree that you should prioritize. There's a requirement to prioritize the large grant. So I would prefer, I don't know why it wouldn't be, that you put in that blank where it asks what priority this grant is, that this is our highest priority, this is our number 1 priority. I don't think you need to mention the small grant at all, because, and I do think from talking to Lisa, both Lisas at the DEM, that they have one pot of money for large grants and another pot for small grants.
So you're suggesting we just prioritize Langworthy as 1 and
One,
leave you as not 2?
Right, not mention this.
All right, I'll withdraw the motion. Withdraw your second? Okay, I'll move that we approve the submission of 2016 RIDEM Small Recreation Development Grant in the amount of $100,000 for the Bushy Brook Accessible Recreation Trail. That's one motion.
Second.
Motion made second. Any discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that we also move that we prioritize Langley Park as number one.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
Sounds great.
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll get it.
Yeah.
That's the next thing.
To get it.
Yeah, very good.
Now, when did they find out?
August.
Are you all set?
August.
Yeah.
You guys all set?
Yeah, just that by Friday, I think Lisa said it would be great if we could have the minutes.
Draft,
Friday.
that's when we got a draft.
Or whatever.
The second half of priority number one is Jim. I'm getting his out first. Yeah. But I'll get yours out too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Motion to adjourn.